I started researching, how do I get in farmers markets? How do I get in Whole Foods? How do I get in Sprouts? How do I get in all these stores? And literally knocked on gyms, some of the high-end gyms in San Diego, carried my paleo pops. I did NFL events there, CrossFit events at the Delmont racetracks. Like, it really started to take off.
From the grit and the grind to successful minds, live from the entertainment capital of the world, your hosts, Jillian Batchelor and Daryl Hannah.
Hey guys, it's Jillian Batchelor.
And Daryl Hannah.
Daryl Hannah, and what are we? We're Vegas Real Talk.
Vegas Real Talk.
And we are here today, you guys, with a special guest, and we have Keisha Leilani with us, and she is amazing. How I met this woman was through a women's empowerment, like, networking group, and I loved her, Daryl, because you know why I loved her? She's a mother. She's a self-made millionaire. She works with her husband, and all of us out there that know how it is to work with your spouses, I mean, that's a difficult thing. They're both killing it.
Is this the one that you went into in San Diego?
Nope. This is a different event. You know, I'm all about the women power stuff.
Go to all those things.
But I like her because she really embodies just the rags to riches story, and she's super humble. And I mean, if you look at her, and you guys, we're going to put her Instagram and her Facebook and her social medias and everything on here. But when you look at her, you're like, this girl is freaking sexy. She's smart. She's a mom. She's all about her kids.
Don't turn red.
But she's living the dream life. She's on private jets and private yachts. But you know why she's doing that? Through hard freaking work.
That's right.
Hard freaking work. And that's what we're all about, you guys. So let me introduce her. She's going to tell us just a little bit about her, what she does. And then we have some fun stuff we're going to talk about today. I cannot wait. Keisha, tell us all about you. Give me like a quick little 2-minute bio, who you are, where you came from. Our viewers want to know why you're so amazing.
Well, first of all, thank you for that introduction. That was really lovely and good to hear. So I'm Keisha. I'm a mom to 2 toddlers and a bonus mom. And honestly, I just moved here about a little over a year ago, came from San Diego. And I just truly have, you know, I have this passion of helping women, empowering women. And when I met you, you were someone that brought so much energy to me. Like, wow, I want to do something with her and do something in a big way.
Jillian brought energy?
What? You guys, I am that high energy queen right here.
With her
Energizer bunny.
with her crystals. That was the first time I met you. And when I came to Vegas, I remember coming here and feeling like I need to find a community of women that are like-minded, driven, hard workers, and also moms and also spouses that work with their spouses, right?
Yep.
And sometimes that's kind of hard to find when you move to a new community.
Yeah.
And I've just been so excited to launch something here in Vegas that could bring all those similar type women that we could all connect and collaborate and create stuff and really make a big difference in the Vegas area.
That's awesome.
And it's
Vegas needs that.
And I mean, Daryl, number one, we know just how hard it is just to be married, just to be in a relationship.
Right.
But then imagine working with your spouse. So all day and then all night, and then you're parenting with your spouse and all these things, right? It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure for people. So I really admire anybody who can do it on a really high level and then be passionate about their business. And then on top of that, just be a good human, right?
Yeah.
It's so important. And Daryl, you've built a lot of businesses from the ground level up, and you've had so much success, which I love that. And so you also know how hard it is to build a business. Before we can go back to Keisha and find out what business she built and what she did and her story, give us one tip, if the viewers were listening, on building a business. What is something you would tell somebody?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, to me, it all just comes down to hard work. I mean, if you're just talking about building a business, it's really just having confidence in yourself and doing it every day and just getting up and doing it.
Because it's scary
the hardest
times,
part
right?
is a lot of people just what if themselves to death. Mm-hmm. What if I start it and it doesn't work? What if I don't have any clients? Right. What if I don't make any money? And they never even end up starting the business to begin with. So I think if you listen to Gary Vee and you listen to all these guys, the one thing they'll say is just do it. Yeah. Like, start.
And so that's actually a really good segue. And so Keisha, I want to go over to you because And I don't, you can get as personal as you want, but I know you really have a traditional kind of rags to riches story, which I love. And you're so humble for the tremendous success you are living right now. So talk to us a little bit about your story, your background. Where'd you come from?
So I grew up in Michigan, born in Colorado, grew up in Michigan, Midwest girl, woohoo. And
you like hockey?
I do like hockey.
Yes.
So when I moved here, I was like, my son's getting in hockey.
Oh, Daryl's son's a huge hockey player. Okay, good. We already got it.
Okay.
There we go.
Well,
okay.
And, I didn't have the best upbringing. I had an alcoholic mother, a drug addict, abusive. There were nights that, like, I didn't know how I was going to wake up with either getting my hair pulled, thrown against the wall, or beaten. And I just remember thinking like, gosh, is this really going to be my life for the rest of my life? Like, how can I get out of this mess? And through just those challenges, I knew I was meant to do something big in the world, but I was stuck because at that age, you can't leave your house. Yeah. And through high school, I would go to my counselors and some teachers, and they felt for me, and they're like, you need to get out of there. We're going to save you. And I remember waking up one day and her saying, if you hate it here so bad, then get out. And I was 16. I was a little into a program called Big Brother, Big Sister. And she was 16, and I was 11 when she met me, and she was 16. And when I turned 16, I called her and I said, I'm ready to get out. And she was honestly my hero that paved this path for me, that my life could actually be something if I used my mess as a message and my tribulations as triumph. So when I moved out, I was like, I'm going to use my story on one-on-one connections in front of people through speech class as a way to inspire other people. Like, yeah, you had it bad, but what if you actually use this as a way to be successful and
truly used it to power, to have power
instead of poor me and
victim mentality.
You use it for your to turn it around. Wow, that's awesome.
And to this day, my counselors and all of them, I actually just texted my big sister the other day, and she's like, I feel like God really placed me in your life to help you succeed, and I did my job on this earth. And it was so eye-opening for me to be like, wow, like having her gave me the hopes and that momness that I was looking for from my real mother. Like, I still don't talk to her this day. I forgave her. Like, I don't think I would have forgiven her. That's awesome. Still kind of haunt me in a way, but I've used it as fuel to empower me and become this young entrepreneur at 23. And through that, I went to college for free because financial aid paid for it, because they were like, she's basically emancipated. She has no guidance. And I started businesses. I had a promo modeling agency in Tampa. I had 13 girls that worked for me. We did private events, NFL events. And I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm going to show women that they can step into this entrepreneurship and not feel like they can't because their mom told them they couldn't be successful.
So hold on one second on that right there, because before we even get in, because when you hear the word success, a lot of people equate success with money. How much money you got in the bank? What kind of car do you drive? Where are your houses? What are your vacations? But just right there, just the story you've already told us before we even go in deeper is such a success, a triumph, a win.
Absolutely.
It is tremendous because you came from a situation where you were powerless. As a kid, you don't have a lot of power, right? You're a child. You came from a situation where you were powerless. You found the mental strength and fortitude to get through it. And then you found a way to make that become your power and your platform, and to rise above and say, I'm not going to let this hold me back. And I think that alone is so powerful. I mean, Daryl, you and I have seen it. So many times people either choose to let that story that they have make them a victim or make them a hero.
Yep. And the thing that I love is that a lot of kids, you were 23, you were a kid. You started a business you didn't have help from your parents, which a lot of kids that start businesses, they have help from their family or from their parents, right? And you didn't do that. You went to school, you started a business, you did it all.
You went to college,
I mean, that's amazing.
Without any family support, financial or mental or emotional or anything. So yeah, keep going. I just want to make sure we really celebrate that right there.
Thank you. And I had this drive to want to be something and do something. And I started that business in Tampa. I started a social media marketing agency just by meeting people in Tampa alongside with that. And through those, I don't like using the word failure, but failure now to me is a positive thing.
Well, you have to.
Right.
Yeah,
it was negative, but
you have to fail to win.
Yeah. I love that. And I learned through that. And then I had this dream to make it out to California. So I had $800 in my bank account, and I was like, I'm going to figure it out. And I drove cross country. I had nowhere to live. I had no job. And I remember going up and down a gas lamp district trying to find a job. And there was these guys in suits like yours. And I just introduced myself. I'm like, I'm new to the area. I have experience in business. I'm also a server bartender. And they were like, well, here's my card. Email me. And one thing that I naturally have done since I was 16 is I've always collected business cards. And I would email them, like whether I was a server, a bartender, or meet them out and about in an elevator. and email them, say it was a pleasure meeting you.
If you need any help, or if there's anything I can ever do for you, or anything.
Not even that, just to just
you were learning about database marketing right there.
Yeah, that's always been in me. And so it's given me a lot of opportunities to have these businesses, right? Because they've seen that the personal, personality and personal connection that I've made with them was different than most people.
Yeah, most people wouldn't have taken that extra step.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I'm listening to you right now. I once heard, this was live. It was Bill Gates. He was giving a speech, and I was I forget where it was, where I was. But anyway, he just said, look, none of us in this auditorium right now can guarantee our employment. Right. Nobody, not even me. Mm-hmm. Nobody can guarantee their employment. I could be gone tomorrow from Microsoft. True. But we all can guarantee our employability.
Yeah. I like that.
Right? Like that's
how you show up.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you did. Like you showed up in a city that you knew nobody. You've never lived there before.
So when you got to LA, how old were you? Or California? When you got to California, how old were you?
2026.
Okay, so you were 26 years old. Okay, so a lot of 26-year-olds are still just trying to figure out their life, but you're on a path for something bigger. So you get to California, and what happens?
But you had all those skills in your bag, right?
Totally, I had the skills in my bag, and I had a restaurant in Tampa paying me for their social media, so I had something coming in. It wasn't much. Yeah. And I remember someone connected me to someone who's like, oh, I have a friend that just moved there from Tampa too. You guys should meet. And so she was like, you can stay with me until you get your feet on the ground. Wow. And I was like, are you sure? So I've had a lot of people in my life bless me and kind of pave that
impactful.
Path. Yeah. And so I've always been a firm believer of paying that forward and paying that back, because if it wasn't for these God sent people to help me through that way,
like where would you be?
Where would I be? Mm-hmm. So through that, I became really passionate about my own health with being gluten-free and dairy-free. I had some stomach pains, inflammatory stuff, and I knocked those all out, and I started creating these truffle bite things that were called paleo pops. And my friends were like, you should start taking these to farmers markets. They're amazing. And I was like, how do I do that?
And you were just doing that for yourself? For myself,
because my own health was kind of taking a toll. And I started making them, and I started researching, how do I get in farmers markets? How do I get in Whole Foods? How do I get in Sprouts? How do I get in all these stores? And literally knocked on gyms, some of the high-end gyms in San Diego, carried my paleo pops. I did NFL events there, CrossFit events at the Del Mar racetracks. Like, it really started to take off. And then I got some investors that I think kind of came in at the time of being young and naive. And I've learned a very hard lesson through that. My health started getting really bad with adrenal fatigue and hormonal stuff. And my skin was turning orange because my liver wasn't processing stuff. Man. And I called him and I was like, I don't know if I can I was making them. I had a commercial kitchen. I had probably 20 accounts. I was a nectar juice. I mean, I was doing it all myself with no help, trying to just get that up on the ground. You know, the dream is get it up on the ground, have Coca-Cola or something by it, right?
You want to keep all the money and you don't want to.
No, not even that. I think they were just they didn't help on that level.
Yeah, they were just quiet investors.
Investors, Mm-hmm. And wasn't willing to pay someone to help me, and just wanted to see what was in me.
What you could do.
Yeah. And through that, I called him and I was like, you know what? As hard as this is my baby. I don't want to walk away. But if I'm not healthy, everything around suffers.
Doesn't matter.
The business suffers. My well-being suffers. And I let that thing go. And it was hard. And so through the same connections and relationships I had with like Perfect Bar, Good Anya, some of the top brands you guys probably eat some of their products, got to meet them. I had their emails and I connected with them. I'm like, listen, I'm not doing this anymore. It kind of fell through with the investors. And they're like, well, we would love to help you educate people on our product at these stores. Would you do that? Well, through that, I was doing it. All my friends were like, I need a job that paid like $20, $25 an hour. Mm-hmm. So I started hiring my friends. I'm like, wait a second. Like, I should make this a business, like a recruiting business. So I started a demo agency shortly after that. I did the Paleo Pop thing for almost 3 years. And hired my girlfriends, but charged the clients an amount and then took a cut and managed the whole team.
Off of every hour that they worked, you got paid.
So I had 40 girls, and I had them in Vegas, in Tampa, in Michigan, in Minnesota. And I became a known demo agency.
Wow.
And then through that is when I got introduced to a keto supplement. And I've been doing that for 5 years full time. And it took off. And I think that staying true to my passion about health and nutrition and educating people about ingredients has really done a service to me because it's what I believe in. And I think that everybody kind of needs to take.
And it's, listening to your story, I wouldn't even call them failures because you decided to shut a lot of those things down on your own. It wasn't like they failed.
Right.
You made smart decision because a lot of people would run that into the ground.
Yep. Or run their health into the ground.
Even if they were, for anybody listening, even if those were failures, they're all they're not failures. They're tools in your bag.
And they're lessons.
Because you learned lessons and you stack them up and you learn this lesson, you learn this lesson from this failure, you learn this lesson. And then when you get to the point where you're at now, like all that prepared you to where you're at now.
Right.
So
now your husband is in the same business with you, right? And how long has he been in the business for?
7 years.
Okay, got it. And so how is it working with your spouse? Because your husband's a beast.
Yes.
You're a beast. Which is great in your business, both very successful, but you're both very humble, which is why I love you. But how is it working with your spouse? Now, do you guys cross over? Do you guys see each other every day? Do you work? Do you deal with the same clients? Do you do that? Is it competitive? Are you guys competing against each other? What's going on? Tell me that.
Well, you're very competitive.
Okay.
Of course, you don't learn that right away, right?
Yeah.
But it's been great. It's obviously had its moments.
Yeah.
I think I was just talking today with a girlfriend. I'm like, it's almost like he knows I had this women's empowerment event coming, and he's like, well, I need to go do an event in a mastermind somewhere. I'm like, no, you need to be a dad and be with the kids on this.
You're like, let me do this one, babe.
Yeah. That's what we talked about.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's intentional, but we both are this go, go, go. Let's see what we can create and make out of it. And like you said, that failure word, it just has a negative connotation. So we use it as tools and learning lessons to say, well, that didn't work. What could we do to make something else work? So working with him has been absolutely amazing, but it's also had its moments, right? Where you're like, gosh, could I see myself ever being a stay-at-home mom? No, because guess what? That's in my DNA to work. Yeah. That's been from little girl,
and how
right?
beautiful is it that you guys get to build something together? I mean, I love the idea of having a spouse that is as driven as I am.
Yes.
And as motivated as I am. And wants the same goals, like we're both rowing that boat in the same direction, right? We're both rowing because we both want to get to point A and then get to point B and then get to point C and have the same ideals behind how we want our life to be, how we want our kids' lives to be. My daughter said something to me the other day standing in my kitchen. So both my daughters were in my kitchen. One daughter's in college. One daughter's a sophomore in college. The other one's a junior in high school. And my sophomore in college daughter, Bella, said to my other daughter, Olivia, well, Mom still pays for my school, obviously because I pay for her college, right? And she looked over at me, and this is a young woman, blossoming young woman. And she goes, Mom, I'm so grateful that you are able to put me through college. And she doesn't have to work right now. She hasn't worked yet. She's going to be 20 in May. She hasn't had her first job yet because we really want her to focus on school. Grades are super important. And she looked over to me, and it was such a natural, nice moment. It was just not last night, the night before.
They don't happen very often.
Yeah, I mean, it's when they actually get it, when they're in that moment, when they get it, and she goes, Mom, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I know how hard you work. And that just melted me because it was like, I provided this for you. Right. And she got it. She felt it. She felt like my hard work and my dedication. And I think that that's so beautiful because you guys have children together, and then your husband has kids from his first relationship. And so I think it's so beautiful to have a spouse that's on the same boat as you. So yes, even though I know that there could be competitive moments, and yes, I know there could be sometimes where you're like, wait, what was your idea? My idea is different. You want to do this? I want to do this. But I think it's a beautiful thing too. So do you ever have any funny stories from you guys working together where you're like, either, hey, I'm going to smother you with a pillow, or where he tried to rip off your idea, or you tried to rip off his idea?
How do your kids?
How old are they?
She has babies.
Yeah.
Oh, babies.
Yeah. Sky's almost 3 Sunday, and then Jet and Sky.
Mm-hmm.
We met on a private jet. That's where our love story started. And when I was searching, the boy names Jet came up. I'm like, we're naming him Jet.
Wow, that's great.
And so how old is Sky?
Sky's almost 3 on Sunday, and then Jet's 4.
Okay.
So they're pretty close in age, Irish twins.
So you have a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
That while you've been in this business 5 years, so you've built this multi-million-dollar business while you had 2 children, gave birth to them, while you're still at home with your kids too, because I see it. And your kids, and for those of you that don't know, because this woman you have to watch her on social media. You will be like, she's amazing. You were on I don't even know, $10 million jet or yacht the other day.
$15 million.
$15 million yacht. Sorry, you guys. She was on a $15 million yacht with her kids. Your kids travel everywhere with you. Everywhere. I mean, you were in the Bahamas.
Is this your guys' yacht or?
It will be.
No,
okay.
No, but you were, and you're always flying private jets and private planes, and your kids are traveling Kim Kardashian's kids, I swear, which I love it because I love your experience. You're giving your kids that cultural, I mean, they're in different countries. I mean, your kids probably have more stamps in their passport than most adults do. I mean, they travel everywhere. I remember when your baby was like a year and you're traveling over the world with your baby because you don't let that stop you, which I love. Instead of being like, no, I need to be a stay-at-home mom, you're actually giving your kids culture while you're teaching them business. They're seeing mommy work. They're seeing daddy work, but they're going everywhere with you. You're not leaving your kids with babysitters. Yes, you have a nanny when you need leverage because there are times, but I've seen you got these 2 little babies and you take them in tow everywhere with you. You're like, oh, I'm going to speak on a stage with 5,000 people. Babies are coming with me. Like you don't let it stop you, which I think I love because your kids are going to see, I would project, your kids are going to see mom can do anything. Dad can do anything. And you don't just stick them with a babysitter. You take them along with you. You don't let it stop you. And you do all these healthy things too. You're not sticking your kids with a bunch of McDonald's. You're giving them.
They don't even know McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly. You're doing healthy cooking and healthy lifestyle. And you're like, these kids, and your kids are like so cute and well behaved. And like, I love it. So tell me a little bit behind that. Has it ever been to you? You have to have moments, Keisha, where you're like pulling your hair out. You're like, the kids are screaming. I got to get this stuff done. We're getting on a jet here. And you guys travel like crazy. I mean, you travel like at least, literally, I would say at least 15 days a month. You're out somewhere in a different country, right?
Yes.
I've seen you on planes. I actually saw you on an airplane.
I know.
On an accident, you guys. Okay. And it was one of the times you weren't flying private, right? And I'm not, and I was flying commercial too. And your husband goes, Jillian? He goes, Keisha's man. That's what he said to me. And I go, I know. And then he goes, and you go, oh my gosh, we're on the same plane together. I don't even know where we were coming from, but we were on the same plane together. Because you guys travel like crazy. I love it.
It happens quite often when we run into people. But I mean, just Sunday.
Do you sleep?
Yeah, I sleep.
Okay.
They're on the schedule. And when we were in East Coast, they were on the Pacific
But I mean,
Coast
do
schedule.
you sleep? Because girl, you and I are texting at 6 a.m. You and I are texting at midnight, and you got these babies with you.
I feel, honestly, I don't know if it's the ketones, but I wake up like excited to tackle my day.
I love it.
And there are days that are very hard. Sunday was one of them, and the kids didn't really eat the whole day. They had snacks, but not a real meal. And I remember getting so stressed out, and I'm like, they don't have any food. We only have an hour layover in Miami. Like, this isn't going to work. And then a 5-hour flight to LA. We don't land till 8. And we had the lay down beds or whatever, which was awesome. So it kept them entertained for a while. But at that 8 p.m. when we're getting off the plane, I'm like, I'm sweating. I was stinking. I mean, I just was like so stressed out. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, we kept looking at the guy we were with being like, how are our kids as good? Like even his daughter, the whole 7-8 days we were gone.
Yeah, because you guys had little babies. Now your husband has two more kids?
6 and 8.
Okay, so you have a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 8-year-old. Sometimes when you travel,
and he's gone every other week.
That is a freaking crew of babies. And so I really want to really focus on this for 1 second, because this just speaks to me about your mindset.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people would be like, I can't do that. I have little kids. I can't do that. My kids are in school. I can't do that. You have bonus kids, so you have schedules where you're passing the kids back and forth. Totally. I can't do that. Both my husband and I work. I can't do that. But you do all of it. You can do it. You leverage it. You make it all happen. You're constantly, the kids' birthday parties, you guys, are like crazy. I've been invited to some of these birthday parties. She does everything, the balloon things and the arches. And this woman literally is Superwoman, you guys. If you've met Superwoman, here she is. Here she is. But I love that because it speaks to your mindset. It's not, I can't, you don't find a no, you find a yes. You find a way to have a yes, to take your kids with you while feeding them healthy, while it seems like you never get stressed out. I've never seen you upset, angry, yelling. I'm like, who is this lady? Maybe it is the ketones. You guys, I need to get on those ketones because it makes her like so nice and perfect all the time. And on top of that, and obviously nobody knows a relationship, but the two people are in it. But it seems like your husband's wildly in love with you, or your fiance. I know he's been your husband. It seems like you're wildly in love with him. You guys are always like spending. I mean, everybody has moments. I get it, you guys. Yeah. Nothing's perfect, but it seems like you guys are living the dream life.
I mean, I think you nailed it. It's mindset. My whole life, I was told I couldn't. My whole life, it was a can't, or no, you can't. You can't have that unless you join the military, or unless you work 3, 4, 5 jobs. And that can't and that no or what ifs, they were negative to me. So instead of thinking that way and switching it to be like, no, I can't have that, and I'm going to put myself in situations and opportunities where I can, even just this weekend being around that type of person and level of success, it made me think even bigger, and it made me believe that I can have anything I want. And I know I can have it, but I want more. And it's not the material more, it's the more
safety,
freedom,
the
more
security,
the safety,
to be able to travel
for my children. And the fact that you said they have more stamps in their passport, I've never traveled anywhere growing up until I was 5 years ago. And I'm like, this is amazing. And sometimes in the moment you don't think that, but then now listening to them, like, this is most people won't have.
So she did this post, you guys, about how on her dream board, and I'm, please correct me if I'm getting this wrong. You always wanted to be on one of these. I mean, it was an amazing yacht. You guys have to go and look at this, okay? How she wanted to travel the Bahamas on a private yacht. And she was like, I'm just going to set my mind to it and make it happen. Now, this is a woman, again, you guys, with 4 little kids basically at home under the age of 8 that can find every excuse of why you can't do that, right? And she's going to make it happen. And she's taking her kids with her. So you guys know, when you get 4 plane tickets, it doesn't matter if it's an adult or a kid.
All 4 children were on the
Not
trip.
This one, but they'll be on our next one in 2
And they've been on quite a few other ones. Yeah. This girl has called me before and been like, we have a private plane. There's 15 of us. We're going to Disneyland. Can you go tomorrow? And I'm like, well, I can't go tomorrow. Can you give me like 2 days notice? And she's like, okay, I'm just inviting my friends. I mean, again, she is living this life by design. And I know we're talking about a lot of, materialistic things. And it's not about being materialistic. It really is about this woman came from nothing, decided she wanted a healthy relationship. I see the relationship you have with your husband. I see the relationship you have with your kids. Yeah. Again, nobody knows I don't live in your house, but it appears to be very healthy. Yeah. You don't appear to be somebody who's like, and I have a lot of friends, men and women, that are very financially successful, but they hate their lives. Yeah. They hate their spouse. They hate their job. They hate what they're doing. You are like always in a freaking good mood. And I've seen some of your posts. Sometimes you can have moments where you reflect or you can get a little sad, but you're always, again, it's the mindset coming from a good place, coming from a place saying, I don't have the background of any financial family. I don't have the background of any supportive family. I don't have the background of any man that's paved the way for me. I don't have I'm going to have these babies. I'm going to get married. I'm going to find a healthy relationship, and I'm going to make a business out of it. And I'm going to live the life I want to live. Like every time you've said you wanted to do something, I've seen you do it. In the short time I've known you, a year, and I'm like, this woman is amazing. I freaking love her.
Well, I think it's talk the talk and walk the walk, right? And so many people talk and have these great ideas or they want these things, but again, the mindset or limited beliefs or someone has told them they couldn't, so they stay in that story. And that's a story they've been telling themselves for years. And so what I love about the women empowerment stuff is that I have an opportunity to share my story, make it loud and bold, to tell these women, like, if you want to have purpose other than being a stay-at-home mom, you can have purpose in other than being a stay-at-home mom, but it's up to you. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, your man might make all the money, but what if you actually had something other than being just a mom because you've been wanting to do whatever since you were 20 or younger, Well,
and I love because at one point you had 3 babies in diapers at home. And so you're like, okay, 3 babies in diapers and one just barely out of diapers, a couple years older, and you didn't let that stop you. Or a lot of people would be like, I can't do it. I'm super stressed out. I'm, making lunches all day or whatever. You let it empower you.
Well, let's talk about, go back on the plane. You don't know your husband yet. You just met him on the plane, you said?
Well, we met through the company, and then that first week, because I wanted to know the science of the keto products, I didn't understand how a product could put you in ketosis than the diet, because I only know the diet can or intermittent fasting, right? And so I drilled him, and I was like, I need to know the science, how it's going to affect the body. I can't put anything in my body that has color, dyes, preservatives, that's gluten, dairy, any of that. And so he's like, well, I'm flying next week to the lab. And I was like, well, can I go? And he's like, well, let me think about it. He said something. I was like, I'd love to pick your brain.
It was the first time you've ever met him?
First time I ever met him.
When you asked him, can I fly with you on the plane to the
lab?
lab?
I didn't know it was a private jet either. I just wanted to pick his brain about the business and the product. And I said, I would love to know because I need to get my flight. What airline are you flying? He's like, well, I'm not flying commercial. I'm flying private. I've never been in a private jet in my life. And it was a G4, and I didn't know any of that until I got there. And he didn't respond for like 2 days. And I was like, honestly, I need to get my ticket. My grandpa lives in Fort Myers. He was going to Tampa.
Calling him, whatever.
Texting him.
Okay.
And he was like, can you leave Sunday? I'm like, sure. So we went up to Van Nuys in LA, and there was a G4 private jet. And I'm like, I felt at that moment my life was about to change. Everyone I met on that plane were multimillionaires. The guy that owns the Core Water, weed dispensary people. And he had watched me go around and just network and connect
Talking
and
to everybody.
Oh my gosh. He was like, this is a me, but a woman version.
Yeah.
And
I love that you weren't afraid of that, because a lot of people would be intimidated.
No one would even
a lot of
be
people
there.
would walk up and
Most
be like,
people.
I've never been on a private plane. I'm coming to a G4 with millionaires and multimillionaires in here. And you're just like, okay, I'm just going to go meet everybody and talk to everybody like they're regular people.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people, you're fairly
Intimidated.
newer to the business. You don't have that same stature of level of success, and you're willing to just make it happen. And a lot of people wouldn't have been, you didn't know it was going to be your future husband, but a lot of people wouldn't have taken the time to text this guy who's very
nobody would
successful
even taken the
and
time
say,
to ask. But
hey, let me get on the plane with you. What airline? I'll buy my ticket. Not knowing the situation you were about to put yourself in,
idea.
but you were bold enough to take that step, which I
But a
love.
lot of people, that moment when he said, "Hey, can you go Sunday?"
right.
Would have said
There's
no.
a split. There's a split second right there where you got to make a decision, right? And if you listen to Gary Vee and these guys, they're always talking about that. Those are the seconds that really can make or break your life. And you said yes, which I think a lot of people probably would have been very intimidated and said no.
Yep.
They would never even got to that point.
They wouldn't
because
have. They wouldn't have got to the tarmac.
They wouldn't have, kept texting him like, "Hey, I want to get
was
my
on it.
airplane. Can I?" Yeah, I mean, that's awesome.
So keep going. So now you're on the plane. So now your husband's seeing you. Was there a moment? Maybe it wasn't that day. Maybe it was further in the future. Was there a moment where you were like,
I want to know when the sparks.
yeah,
start
that's what I
flying
want to know
and
too.
the
Was there a
hearts
moment
and-
you looked at him and you were like,
That's
oh,
what I wanna
hey?
Well, I did a 3-week tour with him. So we were jumping from city to city. One was at the lab in Dallas, and then one was Alabama, Missouri, and then Tampa was where we were going to end up. And in Tampa, like I was almost like his personal assistant by accident, by default.
Yeah.
Hey, can you iron? Yeah, sure.
Well, it sounds like her.
Yeah,
Like
very.
if I would have went on that, she'd
Yeah.
been like, "Hey, can you grab my? Can you
Very
do this?"
similar. Can you
And
get my
I'd have been
luggage?
like, okay.
Yeah.
And I remember getting mad at him in Tampa. We ordered champagne. He's not a drinker. I'm not really a drinker. And I'm like, this is supposed to be my mentor. And we're ordering 2 bottles of Voo or whatever it was. And I just don't want to be around. I'm here to do business.
Yeah.
But I got mad as if he was like, I was already dating him.
Yeah.
And he got sad and upset that he messed up.
Aw.
And at that moment, we still didn't really know feelings were being established until fast forward like a month later. We took a trip to Costa Rica, and he was so anxious for me to get there. I was flying on a different plane ride, and he had already been there. And that was like where we hit it off. And it was like,
So that was like, okay. So wait, back up. So your first
need to know.
date, your first date was a trip to Costa Rica, where most people go to
Basically.
Dinner.
at Ricardo's.
Yeah,
Like,
at Ricardo's.
You flew to
Yes.
Costa Rica.
yes.
Yeah.
Wow,
I mean,
that's awesome.
But that speaks to how bold you are. And it's funny because, like, when people meet you, I wouldn't say that you're that person that comes in and, like, pushes people out of the way and, like, has this presence like, yo, I'm here. You guys look at me. Look at me. You're not super flashy, which I love about you, because you actually come off very humble. Like, oh, hi, I'm Keisha. Nice to meet you. You're not like,
Yeah.
hey, you should know who I am. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like that, right? And so I think that I wouldn't, because of that, because you have a sweet personality, I wouldn't necessarily think like, oh, she's bold. She's grabbing the bull by the horns. But I love that that's a surprise that comes from you, because you get this
It's like a hidden.
Sneak attack.
It's this hidden strength, this hidden power, which again, anybody who's watching or listening, I hope
a
that you really
Venus
see that.
flytrap.
Yeah, it's like, I got you.
Very like a flower.
But I love that, because I want that to not just empower men or women, because that shows you don't have to be the loudest and the most obnoxious in the room. Or a lot of things in business, I feel like we're taught, just go in and take it, go in and grab what you want.
Oh, 'cause you feel like that's what you have to do.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's a perfect sign that you don't have to do that. You can be committed, you can be determined, but do it with a nice grace and a presence about you, like, where you're not trying to overtake somebody, and not a threatening presence. And I think that's a big, this is like a kind of an aha moment for me, because I'm kind of always was told, like, you got to claw your way to the top, and, but you can do it with grace and class and sweetness. I like that.
I like that too.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right,
that's something that you can
Teach
share and teach with women who think that's what they have to do.
Because
to
you're
get
not a
ahead.
bulldozer, which I love that about you. I think we're taught we have to bulldoze people, and we don't have to. We can do it. I mean, gosh, look at what she's doing.
Yeah.
So tell me, take a quick little estimate. You don't have to give me an exact number, but in the last year, how many countries do you think you've been in? Because you travel like crazy.
6.
Okay, that's a good
Wow.
one.
In
We
one
travel
year.
we
That's
travel
great.
a lot to state. I mean, we've been to Costa Rica 3 times this year.
I know. When you've been to Mexico, probably 10.
Yeah, we've been
This
to
year.
Mexico. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what.
Yeah.
So 6 times, but you've traveled
6 times.
500 times.
Yeah. How many days a month do you feel like you're traveling?
probably here a week out of the month. Like
Okay.
Yeah.
So every week every month you're somewhere for a week.
No, we're here in Vegas.
Oh, so you're gone
3 weeks.
You're
gone.
We're gone about 3 weeks.
Okay. Wow. And then with the babies, do the babies come all the time?
Not all the time, but for the most time. I remember before having babies, we had that conversation of like, because of our personalities and our go-go mentality, I had said, I don't ever want to be the mom who's stuck at home watching you live life.
Yeah.
I mean, on these adventurous trips, and I'm taking care of my babies. Like, I want to make enough money and have help where we can do it together. And he said, we'll make sure that happens. And we were on the same page with that.
And your primary residence now is here in Vegas.
Thankfully.
Do you guys have any second homes anywhere?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Costa Rica, one of them?
We have one being built in the Carolinas. We have Costa Rica.
My dad lives in North Carolina.
Really?
What part of Carolina?
Oh my gosh.
It's like Hilton Head, or is like on an island somewhere?
Nope.
Or?
It's a lot of cabins, very well known.
Oh, so it's inland. It's not on the beach.
Inland.
Oh, okay.
And then they also have part of
Beautiful
this like
mountains
amazing like super luxurious, like almost like an Airbnb, but it's like an exclusive membership where you go and you stay in these like mansions all over the world.
Best thing ever.
Yeah. So I mean, they live. You have to watch. They live the most beautiful life, and I like the fact. I just want to really mention it again that you are a lot of times, most of the time, you're bringing your babies along with you, so you don't let that stop you. In fact, your culture, you're giving them so much cultural diversity, so they can see how it is in other countries.
Yeah, they talk Spanish. My 2-year-old.
Wow.
That's amazing.
She'll talk all the way till 20 in Spanish.
I love it.
So
That's
we're
cool.
constantly
At 2, right? I love this. And
they say that if you can teach your kids, I think it's 3 different languages by the time they're I don't know what 10 or something. Like they have like a 90% chance of being a millionaire by the time they're. I mean, there's this crazy odds, right, about languages.
And I love that you made it a conscious effort. Like what you just said, you had that conversation with your husband. You were like, I don't want to be out there watching you live your life while I'm just raising my kids. I want to raise my kids and live the life with you. And he was like, okay, make sure that happens. And I love that. That just speaks to how in tune you guys are with your wants and needs, and how you're like, okay, I'm going to make it happen. Where a lot of people would not know what to do. They would they were like, well, what's the next step? Well, how do I become a millionaire? How do I become?
Or a lot of people just don't have kids at all.
Yeah, or
that are like in that.
Or they think that they
mindset,
can't do it because they have kids. But you're doing it along with kids, and you're making it work, and I love that. So before we wrap up, I really want to talk about, because I know how passionate you are about women and passion, and I want to talk about this Rise Collective. So I've been so lucky, gracious, to be included in a movement that you're doing. I'm going to call it a movement. And it's about helping women be powerful and impactful. And let me tell you, she lit up this panel, right, you guys? And I am like the low man on the totem pole. She brought these women in that are like low woman on the totem pole. Yeah, you brought these women in, like one that had like multiple Fortune 500 companies, exited like a tech space, like first female in tech business, and a woman who like got 1 million+ followers on TikTok or TikTok, sorry, and under a year TikTok, in under a year. I mean, just really powerful women. And you want to put together this woman empowerment event where you want to teach other women that are high success, high achievers, that they can be a mom, they can be a wife, they can be a mother, they can be a sister, they can be a best friend, and a badass boss babe, and make a ton of money and do all the things. So tell us a little bit about the Rise Collective, what sparked that, and what that's going to be.
I feel like you nailed it. Honestly, like just coming here into a new city and not knowing how or where I'm going to plug myself in, to feel like I'm going to learn from like-minded and powerful, impactful women. And I've always had it on my heart to do something like this. I just, during babies and life happening and traveling,
awesome.
it just
and
kind
it
of
goes by
got
fast, doesn't it?
Totally goes by fast. And when I sparked this idea, I came to my friend Kaylin, who was one of the first owned electronics in Target. And she's kind of been my mentor, I would say, of women in business. And I was like, I want to do this locally, and then I want to start doing it on an international retreats and masterminds all over
I'm going
the
to
world.
every single one that you do, like
Every
just so you know.
single one. And I'm like, this would be so powerful, because if I had this type of network or community of women when I was 23, because I didn't have the guidance from my parents, how far would I have gotten earlier on?
Oh my God, I feel the same way. I mean, just from a man's perspective, not having mentors when you're younger. God, I thought if I would have had something like that when I was that age, how different my life would be.
And Keisha, how old are you right now? Do you mind us asking?
36.
36. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm feeling like a little bit of a loser because she's done
like
so
you're
much.
Well, let me tell you, partner, you're not low woman on the total at all.
Just today. Okay. So about the Rise Collective. So when are you going to do an event? How often do you want to do events? What type of women should sign up? Tell us all the things.
honestly, the women that are looking for like-minded women that are driven, motivated, maybe they're moms, maybe they're stay-at-home, wives.
They don't have to be business owners, right? I mean, someone who wants to write a book or could
100%.
be whatever.
Just somebody who just wants
resources
more.
And tools and women that can guide them and give them those resources and tools and guidance that I wish I would have had when I was younger. And I know there's a lot of noise on social media. And so if we can create that community or that movement here in Vegas, and it does this word of mouth ripple effect, I think it could really impact a lot of women that were like me when I was in my 20s. And there's women starting in their 30s.
Yeah.
Now that could.
Well, and speaking of, it's Kayla, right?
Kaylin.
Oh, Kaylin? Yeah, Caitlin.
Yeah, Kaylin.
Right? Okay. Yeah. Speaking of her, when we got on the call with her, she said, I never was in the tech space. I didn't know anything about tech. She was like, but I'm going to start a tech business. So imagine today, your wife just being like, I don't know anything about the food industry. I'm going to start a restaurant. And she develops the first woman-owned full electronics company, then got into Target, and worldwide brand, right? And became like a Fortune 500 company. This is a woman who had no background in tech space. Nothing, everything with everything against her, she should have failed. And she was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to learn it. That's and great. Then became multi-millionaire over it. Because
and who can't learn from that? I mean,
so she's one of the women who's going to be at the event.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right? You're going to be there. I'm going to be, same thing, had no parent support, and the fact of I had to start my own business from ground level up scratch. So I love that you're picking a lot of women who didn't have experience in their fields, didn't know what they were doing. And I just want to retouch on a few little things about you again. These are the things I want to make sure people heard.
Let me say something real quick.
Okay, sorry.
I think that this would not have worked 10 years ago in Las Vegas because you would have spent time building up this group, which I think would have caught fire initially, but then half of those girls are going to move, right? Because Vegas has always been such a transient, but lately, just like we were talking about this before, the last couple of years, Vegas has become more of a place where people want to settle down and they have a lot of stuff to be excited about because Vegas is becoming more than just gambling and clubs and stuff.
More than just the entertainment capital.
It's actually become fun place to live and
good place to raise your kids.
So I think what you guys are doing is great. And I'll bring it back.
So I was just saying the things I want people to remember about you and why I think people should follow, like, and love you. You were dropped into 2 different cities where you knew nobody. So you originally moved to California where you knew nobody. $800 in her pocket, drove cross country, didn't know anybody. First off, that's a bold move. Just to say, I'm going to just move.
That was crazy.
Yeah, crazy. It's insane. So, and then decided, I'm going to learn a business here, and I'm going to start multiple different businesses. She started there. Then moved to Vegas a little over a year ago? A little over a year ago. Didn't know anybody. Moved with your husband at that point, but moved with your husband, your kids, didn't know anybody, and we're like, while you have 2 little babies in tow, at that point you had a 2-year-old, you had a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 6-year-old or something like that. Little babies, and you're like, I'm going to keep growing my business. And then on top of that, you've had no family, emotional, physical, financial support, spiritual support. So you've had really every obstacle against you. You're young, because at this point you're in your early 20s when you get to California, 30s when you get to Vegas, with babies on tow, with a fairly new business, because you were only in your business at that point. Last year wasn't 4 years you were in your business, but when you were in California, you were not in your business at all. So no family, physical, financial, emotional, spiritual support. Cities where you know nobody, no friends. Somebody who's basically letting you couch surf, no money in your pocket, and you're like, okay, I'm going to be successful. I love that because it was a mindset. You're like, I have nothing. I have no one. I have no one to rely on. I have nobody to help me out. I'm going to make it happen. Because so many people find the excuse why they can't do it. And you found a way of why you could do it.
It also seems like you were not scared of talking to people. Where do you think you got that from?
Yeah, where does that come from?
I think as a kid, I was never... Everything I said was like, wasn't heard. It didn't matter. It wasn't heard, or it was, talked down about. And
I think a lot of people would then use that as like a crutch, like, okay, I can't talk to anybody.
No one's going to listen to me. No one's going to hear me.
Because that happened to me, like I'm out.
Yeah, no one listens to me. No one values what I have to say anyways.
How
you turn that around.
Yeah, how do you just start walking down Gaslamp talking to people that you don't know? Like, most people can't do that.
I know. I know it's a skill I've had since I was little.
Wow.
And I've used it as a way, if I could tell my story or just introduce myself and create a relationship with somebody as a way for a safe place that everything was going to be okay, that I knew that everything was going to be okay.
Yep.
And so I would meet these people, and I'm not I've never been put in a situation where things have been bad because of me being so open.
Yeah. And you said you always collected business cards.
Oh, I still have them.
What age did that start?
Oh my gosh, 17.
Really?
So I love that you were looking at that. And as a woman moving to a new city, I mean, there's a lot of obstacles and a lot of fears, a lot of challenges that a woman faces versus a man. You know, men are less likely to get raped than a woman is. Men are less likely to get attacked than a woman is, especially when you're brand new into a city where you know no one.
Oh, for sure.
You don't have a place to live. Like, you know, it's a lot more of a risk. Not taking anything away from a man, but it's a lot more of a risk, right? Even a lot more doors are opened when you're a man than you are a woman. And initially, I think now it's 100%. Changing a little bit, but I really like the fact that, because people will say that to me all the time, like, what's the secret to your success? Mine is, honestly, and I always tell people, I'm not the richest, I'm not the most attractive, I'm not the most educated, I'm not the best dressed, but I'm not afraid to go and talk to anybody. And when I was telling people, like, my kids were homeschooled, people would always say, like, oh, well, does that make them socially awkward? I'm like, have you met my kids? They talk to everyone. In fact, I have a son who talks more than I do, if you guys can believe it. I'm like, I can't shut that kid up. I'm like, stop talking to people. We'll be in the grocery store and I'm pulling him out because I'm like, stop talking to that random 75-year-old woman. He's having a full-blown conversation with her. So I think that is such an underutilized but such an amazing life skill when you don't have fear to just spark up a conversation, because you never know what's on the other end of that conversation.
For sure.
You ever read the book Never Eat Alone?
No.
Mm-mm.
So it's a personal development book. And I remember reading that book and I was already doing it. So it talks about when you go to a gym or a restaurant or step in an elevator, spark up a conversation. So I have these icebreakers that I'll start with every person I run into, which in fact I just did in, where were we? Albany. And with a lady that owns a bigger yacht than the one I was on.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, hey, I'm going to be in Vegas at the end of the month. I'd love to meet up and have drinks and dinner. And we became like social media friends. And
just
now we're networking.
Starting a conversation.
Mm-hmm. She was walking in the bathroom. My little daughter had a cute dress on and was trying to tie her shoe. And I asked her if she needed help to my daughter. And she walked by and I was like, I like your earrings. And I think that as women, as you know, we think to say a compliment to someone. We think about saying it. And we don't say it. So I've always been like, say what's on your mind. Yeah. And sometimes that can get you in trouble, right?
Well, I would say, even just for me knowing you've always been extremely complimentary. The thing is about you, and I think that you can tell when somebody is either threatened or comes from a good natural place. And I've met a lot of successful women in business that are alpha women, like I would consider myself. And a lot of them look at it like, oh, I'm a challenge. Like I come in and they're like, oh, another alpha woman. They're trying to like size me up. And they're friendly with me, but you can always tell there's not like a true level of friendship there. Yeah. You came in like open arms, like, I just want to love you. Let's be friends. No threat.
But it's a good energy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You were not like, oh, there's another alpha female. Let me size her up. Like, no, you came in like no threat. Like, I just want to love you. And you've always showered me with love. You'll text me out of the blue. Hey, girl, let's get together. Hey, girl, what are you doing? Like, you put a lot of effort forward into making real solidified relationships. Yeah.
And it's just hard when I travel as much as I do. I'm
it like, is. Oh, my. And when you're constantly being dropped in new cities. And I think that speaks to the volume of A, who you are as a person, but B, your true level of success, not just financially, but just as a person and making those connections, because you are open to receiving people. You're not.
Well, that's why, I mean, obviously I don't know you. I've met you 45 minutes ago. Yeah. But we all know the saying, people want to do business with people that they like.
Yeah. Know, like, and trust.
And automatically people, they feel that energy and they like you, right? And then once you know them for a month or two and you've texted them and you feel, it doesn't feel like you're trying to do it to get business. Right. I can tell you, right, just from talking with her, that she feels like you really have an interest in her. Right. Not just business, but
and that makes me like you more, and it makes me more interested in your business.
That doesn't happen very often.
Which is something I get self-conscious about, because I never want people to think that the reason why I'm talking to them is to get them in my business. Yeah. And,
I don't.
But that's just what's automatically 100%. Ingrained in everybody. Like, what does she want?
What's her motive? Yeah.
But you can almost tell.
Yeah, you come off very genuine.
Who's genuine and who's not.
Very genuine. Yeah. You're very genuine, for sure.
Thank you.
That's awesome. All right. So I'm going to make sure that in this, you guys, when you're watching this podcast or listening to it, I'm going to make sure that you get all of her social media tags so you guys can follow her and just think she's as amazing.
Going to make sure it's all right down here
all
for you
in
guys.
There. And I'm going to get you guys some information on the Rise Collective, because this is going to be a growing, living, breathing thing. It's not going to be like just a one event. It's going to be multiple events, because Keisha really is powerful, and And
I feel like your
serious
husband
about
right
this.
now. I want to do a man thing now. But
Yeah, he's like, all right, we'll connect. We'll connect with your husband for sure. I will.
maybe we need to talk. You and your husband.
Any last little bit
he
of
would
just
love it.
knowledge or line or anything you want to tell our viewers before we end this? This has been great, man. I can't believe it's almost been an hour already.
I mean, I think 2023, you know, I feel like a lot of people had a couple years of just hard life. And this
We need the
year,
connections back.
We need the connection, the
We all
community,
do.
the collaboration to create again and rise above and rise to the level that God has created us to rise to.
Yeah.
And that's really what Rise is about, is to
awesome.
create that community and bring in all the women that I've met, you've met, and some of the Vegas women have met, and do it collaboratively.
And I love that it's all different businesses. It's people, like you said, that maybe they're not even in a business, but they want to write a book, or they want to do a screenplay, or they want to just want to connect. They just want to have meaningful
I like to get my
connections with
wife
women.
to talk with you guys.
Yeah, have her
I think
come
she
to the
would
event.
love this.
Have her come to the event.
Your sister's coming, she said.
I know, my sister. Yeah, I'm like, because I feel like all women need this.
Yes.
Because we get down on ourselves so much on like, I'm not, skinny
Worthy,
enough. I'm not working out enough. I'm not contributing enough to my family. I'm not, being sexy enough for my husband. I'm not being the best mother. I haven't checked on my kids as much, or I'm not being the best sister. I don't have enough time for that, because we feel so spread thin. So I feel like when you get to these environments where you meet other like-minded women that all have the same fears, but all overcome them, they conquer those fears, and they do the best that they can do. And you have a tribe, it becomes
Well, I think
so
social
powerful.
media too does so much damage to people, and they just feel like they're trying to like measure up with most of that stuff is fake.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think if you guys can create a place where people can just go
safe.
and be real,
Yeah.
and be safe and not have to like measure up,
Yeah.
100%.
it's gonna win.
I love it. Well,
gonna
Keisha,
rise.
thank you so much for being on our podcast today. We
you.
loved
This
it.
was
You're
great.
amazing. I love connecting with you again. You guys, again, I'm Jillian Batchelor.
Daryl Hannah.
And we're Vegas Real Talk, and we will see you on the next episode. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. Talk to you soon.